I've had messages off of spiritualists that say to me that they get contacted from my ancestors, and the way they do it is from my clock.
Who do you think you are?
Yeah.
One of the best episodes of that program ever.
Such a mad job because they offer you the job, or they go, look, we'd really like to do something on you, and you go, okay, fine, and then you sort of give them some information about what you know, which is usually generally fuck all, and then they go away and they disappear, and you don't hear nothing for 3 months. And I know people that they've done that with, and come back and gone, yeah, sorry, we're not going to be able to, we didn't find anything. They came back to me shaking. There was an energy. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, okay, so we're going to start shooting in 3 weeks. And I was like, oh, what is this? What's going on here? I never quite knew. And the thing is, you don't know what's coming. So you wake up in the morning, they're picking you up at 9 o'clock. You don't know where you're going. You don't know who you're talking to. You can't really plan the day in your head. And they keep you in a cafe around the corner. They put the mic on you, and then you go around the corner, and then you go and meet somebody, and it all plays out live on the camera. So they don't give you no inkling of anything. So who knew? You know what? I've had a few professors and stuff piss on my parade since, saying that everybody. I mean, if you put the article in the Daily Mail, the Daily fucking Foul, and then of course they encourage people to comment on it, then most people will go, well, everyone's related to King Edward III, everybody. So, and I go, well, hold on a minute, because I think I was in series 10, and they'd never found any trail to. Why has this never come up before? It goes back to classism thing. How can someone like me, potentially win the first BAFTA for Who Do You Think You Are as well? Although I didn't get a fucking BAFTA for it, which was weird. I stood in the queue and all the producers and the director got one. I went, where's fucking mine?
Criminal.
It's my family.
How did it make you feel about yourself and inhabiting your own skin? Did it make you feel...
It gave me some sort of validation in the
Yeah.
sense of not really the royalty thing. I couldn't give a fuck about that. More the Thomas Cromwell thing. Because I'd heard a lot about Wolf Hall, and I'd worked with Mark Rylance when I was a child. He was my drama school. He was somebody that I really learnt from. I worked with him when I was 17 years of age, and I'd never come across anybody who was so unassuming and boring and shy and a bit sort of socially shit. And then when you said action, he was the most powerful fucker in the room. This presence, and I was like, oh, I've never seen this before. Like, all my scenes were with him. Couldn't quite talk to him away from the job. Tried my hardest, didn't really want to know. But then I would watch this man come alive. He had a little dictaphone, and he would walk around, and because he'd obviously give himself notes. And again, I'd never seen any of this, so it was like I could hear him like listening to this thing. But the presence of between action and cut, and I thought, oh, I love it. I could see his little idiosyncrasies, or the way his posture would change, and it was just a real lesson for me. 7 weeks being wrapped around this man, he was my complete drama school, I would say.
The Thomas Cromwell thing, though,
But
because
he
you saw
played him, so
parallels.
he then played him, right, in Wolf Hall. So I hadn't watched Wolf Hall until after I'd learned that he was my grandfather, 15 times great grandfather. And the reason, this is the beautiful thing about the whole thing, is that his last act before he got his nut chopped off was he made sure that his son, my 14 times great grandfather, married Elizabeth Seymour, sister of Jane, who Henry VIII loved with all his heart. So he didn't kill his son. Otherwise, he would have killed Gregory as well, and I wouldn't be here. So the fact that he kept that line going meant that then Gregory had a son, and then they had a son, and then they had a son, and then fuck knows went wrong why I ended up on a council estate, you know what I mean? But, if he hadn't have done that before he was killed, then my bloodline, I wouldn't be here.
Isn't that
It's amazing.
It's totally extraordinary, especially given what we're talking about fathers and sons, abandonment, identity. Like, actually, this is the reason you're here. That's wild.
And that's why, and then also he was from Putney. He was a working class kid, and then he went to Florence and he studied there and he learnt languages, and he was almost like, so going back to the classism thing, I suppose, it's the same thing with me. I suppose I was in a world I shouldn't have been in. I knew nothing about, but I obviously had a talent. I wasn't very good with the socialising aspect, but, put me on a stage and I'll stand up and I was the bravest fucker in the room. You know what I mean? I could never quite understand when I was sitting around a table you know, doing the rehearsals and everyone's talking about subtext and shit and writing stuff down. They got journals, and I was just sitting there. I'd learnt my lines. I wasn't very good at breaking down why my character's saying it, because actually it's all about performance and just, you know, selling the line. So that when I was sitting with some actors, I won't name them, that were really good at writing about it and being quite dismissive of me, when they stood up, they were a bit shit. I was like, oh, right, so you understand why you're saying the line and why it's so loaded, but yet you fucking can't deliver it. And so I would sort of quietly just sit back in my seat and go, I can't wait to get up and start playing with it and really start blocking it, because that's when I can come alive. So I suppose there's similarities in a sense of, you know, Cromwell's rise and to where he got. And ultimately that's what got him killed, because obviously the other aristocrats around Henry hated the fact that this kid from Putney had rose and become so powerful, and so they got in Henry's nut and he killed him, which he regretted.
Yeah, I've got 2 more questions before we get on to your failures.
Go on.
Have you ever been to a psychic and tried to communicate with your ancestors?
Well, interestingly, I'm quite a spiritual person, and I've had messages off of spiritualists that say to me that they get contacted from my ancestors, and the way they do it is from the time. So at least 3 times a day, I will randomly look at my watch on my clock, and it will be 12:12, or it will be 13:13, or I did it today at 10:10. I just looked at the clock and it was 10:10. So it gives me a comfort that I feel that my ancestors are maybe looking out for me, a higher power, if you will. And and I'd like to think that one of my higher powers is Harold Pinter, and that's why he's a screensaver on my phone. Because I just like having him around me. You know what I mean? I just feel that he was really good for me, and I went off the rails when he died. So there's a connection there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that they are maybe looking out for me, and you know, because I've got some nutty blood. I'm related to a saint as well.
Are you? Which saint?
Saint Louis the Ninth, was it? I went to France. I did a follow on from Who Do You Think You Are? It's called Danny Dyer's Right Royal Family, and then we go right back to William the Conqueror and Rollo the Viking, who's my last relative that they can trace me back to in 900, whatever.
Amazing. I hope you enjoyed that video. Be sure to check out the full episode of How to Fail wherever you get your podcasts, and also make sure you're following us on social media for all the latest updates.